This research is gathering information about how the communication needs of children and young adults with hearing loss may have changed. You will have seen the survey on SurveyMonkey, and you might have downloaded a paper copy. We're going to go through the questions to explain what the questions mean. Question 1. Your age. Are you 16 to 21? 22 to 40? 41 to 60? Or 61 and over? Question 2. Your gender. You can select whether you're male or female. Question 3 asks you about your ethnic background. You can select from British, Irish, other white, white and black Caribbean, white and Asian, black Caribbean, black African, other black, Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi. And if you don't feel that your ethnic background fits into one of those categories, you can select other, and there's space for you to put in what you feel is your ethnic background. Question 4. Have you been deaf since birth? You can select yes or no. If no, there's a space to fill in at what age you became deaf. Question 5 is about the type of hearing technology that you currently have. You can select differently for your right ear and for your left ear. So you can select a hearing aid, a cochlear implant, a bone-anchored hearing implant, other, or none. If you select other, there's a space at the bottom to fill in what type of hearing technology you currently have. Question 6 wants to find out how often, how much of the time you use hearing technology. So you can select one of 4 choices. All of the time, most of the time, some of the time, never. Question 7. Without your hearing technology, how well can you hear? This is when you're not wearing hearing aids or a cochlear implant, if you sometimes do. So it's going to ask you about different situations and how well you hear in those situations. So the first one is speech in a quiet place. How well can you hear? Not at all, a little, well, or very well. The other situations it asks: speech in a noisy place, conversation with one person, conversation with a group of people, on the telephone, or watching television. Question 8 is finding out how well you hear with your hearing technology. So whereas question 7 was asking about when you didn't have it on, question 8 is asking if you use hearing aids or you use a cochlear implant and you're wearing them, how well can you hear? And it goes with the same situations. So the first one is about how well you hear speech in a quiet place. So do you hear it not at all, a little, well, or very well? So the other situations it asks about are speech in a noisy place, conversation with one person, conversation with a group of people, on the telephone, or watching television. Question 9 is finding out where you currently are. Are you at school, in further education college, university, work, unemployed, retired, or other? If you are at work, question 10 asks you what your job is, and there's a space to fill in what the job title is. Question 11 is finding out who you went to school with. Did you go to school with mainly hearing children? Mainly hearing children, but there was a special class for deaf children. With only deaf children, or another sort of special school, and there's a space there for you to fill in what type of school that was. Question 12 is asking you to describe the form of communication that you use and how often. So it asks you, if you use spoken language, would you describe this as always, mostly, sometimes, rarely, or never? It also asks if you use speech with signs, BSL, or the Deaf Blind Manual. And there's space for each mode for you to select always, mostly, sometimes, rarely, or never. Question 13 is trying to find out if your communication is different in different places. So do you communicate differently at work versus with friends, where it may be with family? And so you select yes or no. There's also a box there for you to explain when this communication is different and who with. Question 14 asks you if your communication has changed over time. And you can select yes or no. Question 15 is asking you how you communicated before. So if it has changed over time, thinking back to earlier on, did you use spoken language, always, mostly, sometimes, rarely, or never? And again, you can choose speech with signs, BSL, the deaf-blind manual, and you can select how often, from always, mostly, sometimes, rarely, and never. Question 16 asks you to comment on why your communication has changed and when. That's it. Question 17 is asking what support services that you currently use, and you can tick all that apply to you. So do you use a BSL interpreter? Do you use an interpreter or communication support worker who uses sign and speech? An FM system? PAL and typist, subtitles? A note taker? A lip speaker? A loop system? None of those, or other. If you select other, there's a space for you to write in what sort of support service that you use. The question before asked you what support services you used. Question 18 is trying to find out if everything was available, what would you choose? What would you like to use? And the whole list is there again. Thank you very much for taking the time to fill in this survey and help us find out vital information about how communication is being used. The last part of the survey, question 19, gives you the option of giving us your information. We could contact you then in the future to be part of more research. The boxes ask for your name, your address, your email, so that we can contact you in the future to take part in further research. Thank you again for taking part.